Okay, hello. How's it
What's
going?
up,
I don't know what's happening.
We need a clapboard.
Yeah, better than ever, man.
Better than ever.
It was like, this is weird, man. We're like, got the new set going on, got the microphones happening, and we're like, wait a minute.
What's next?
Like our original setup was just
my
like
phone on top of my refrigerator like this, like
talking
in
on
the dark
Zoom.
room. So
and now we're like, there's cameras and lights.
I'm nervous all of a sudden. Yeah, we gotta
We don't
make
get
sure
nervous. What are you talking about?
everything's cracking the right way, man. So yeah, last week we debuted the studio anyway, and this week we get to debut our sound.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a new producer. Shaquana's still our producer as well. We have co-producers. We have a new producer, Les.
Yeah, Les.
Knows way more about.
Oh man, we really appreciate you, man. Thank you for all the stuff, man. And we're gonna hopefully things will just get better with our production, man, because we actually got a producer now. Man.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's hard to get better than perfect, but somehow we'll figure it out.
So anyway, man, today we're gonna continue with our series of interviews with city council. People that are running for city council and also the incumbents that are there as well. We're still waiting on you, Guy Slinger.
Guy Slinger!
Where are you, sir? Waiting on you. But who we do have here today is Mr. Jim Mason, who's running for District 1.
District 1.
And so we wanted to bring you on and kind of introduce yourself to the people. Just cause, we're here to talk about the just Colorado Springs and things that's happening.
Absolutely.
And, we just want to introduce you to what's happening and kind of we got some questions for you and
Absolutely.
kind of get a feel for you and what you got going on.
Just COS, yeah.
Indeed, yes, sir.
And I don't know if we have a ton of viewers in District 1, but I do know at least my mom lives in District 1, and she is a viewer, so.
Every vote counts, and every voice counts.
Indeed.
Your mom may be one person, but trust me, she knows at least 20 others.
That's true. True. She at least knows my stepdad for sure.
Yeah.
So Mr. Mason, introduce yourself. Who are you? What
well, very well. My name is Jim Mason. Where do I start?
It's hard, right? When you got to talk about yourself,
Well, it's just that I want to be pertinent and I want to be respectful of people's time.
Indeed.
Therefore, I will tell you 3 things that I think you need to know most importantly about Jim Mason. Number 1, I spent my entire adult professional life in the United States Army.
Okay, like Sean.
Yes, I retired in 2005. The second thing that you probably should know about me is this. Living in Colorado Springs was a conscious decision by my family and myself. When we retired in 2005 in Heidelberg, Germany, we literally sat at a guest house in Germany having dinner. And we ticked off all the places we'd lived. And my 30-year career, 25 years with my wife. We got married when I was a captain. And of all the places we'd ever lived, Colorado Springs was the best place for the Mason family.
Wow, okay.
Better than Germany, better than Maryland, better than D.C., better than Fort Benning, better than Georgia, you name it. So we lived all over the place. Better than Carlisle Barracks in Pennsylvania, and Fort Leavenworth in Kansas. Kansas City was better than all those places. And my wife and I said, okay, it's Colorado Springs. Now, the third thing you need to know about me is, upon that decision, we also committed to something else. And what we committed to was, we're not just going to live there. We are going to get involved and make the city all it can be. At least do our part in that respect. Therefore, we're going to get involved. That's the commitment. That leads me to here. Because we moved here, built a home in University Park, which happens to be in School District 11's footprint, and of course within District 1. Okay. And once we got the home built and got settled, I got involved in education because education was the defining mechanism in my life. To regress for a second. I was born and raised in rural Arkansas. in the 60s. I went to segregated schools.
Wow.
I grew up with the civil rights movement as a young adult. Therefore, I have a acute appreciation for education. Because quite frankly, gentlemen, I would not be sitting here today if it was not for education. It is the pathway that brought me here. And because it was so important in my life and my family's life as a result of that, I got involved in education because I wanted everyone to have the opportunity that I was having. Got involved with School District 11. One thing led to another. I ended up running for the school board. I got elected to the school board in 2013, got reelected in 2017, and I'm currently serving in my last year on the School District 11 Board of Education. We got involved. The work with the school board led to work with the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority. And I was then appointed to serve on that board as a commissioner, so I'm on that board. Between District 11, understanding what makes the community tick in the way of education and the importance of the school district to the broader community, then my work with the Urban Renewal Board let me see some of the insights in how a city grows and how it thrives, and the importance of the relationship between development, bringing businesses into the city, creating good and healthy jobs, led me to my broader understanding of Colorado Springs. And because of that broader understanding and the desire to serve people and the desire to offer my best on behalf of my fellow man, I decided in December 2019 that I would run to replace current council member Don Knight, who has represented the district very, very well. However, he is term limited. Someone's got to pick up the baton. Someone's got to pick up the work. And the work confronting Colorado Springs in District 1, and let me just regress one more time. District 1 in Colorado Springs as a city, it's a symbiotic relationship. One can't survive without the other. And clearly, what is in the best interest of District 1 is probably going to be in the best interest of Colorado Springs proper. What's in the best interest of Colorado Springs is more than likely going to be in the best interest of District 1. It's a relationship. And it cannot be broken because one or the other would literally not survive if we did not have this relationship. And to get the work accomplished, to recognize the challenges, but to recognize the opportunities as well confronting the city in District 1, you would probably prefer to have someone with a modicum of experience and understanding what runs the city and how the city should be growing and how the city will have to grow if we're going to continue to enjoy the prosperity that we've enjoyed for what, over 150 years, 170 years?
Yeah, I was just looking at a chart yesterday of our population growth, and I was like, wow, we've really kind of been booming since about the 1950s in Colorado
Exactly.
Springs, you know, like really.
And there's no decreasing.
Yeah.
Simply because of our location geographically. We're smack in the middle of Denver and Pueblo. And both of those cities are growing, which means just by reasonable logic, we're going to be a part of that growth. And we should be. Now the question becomes, how do we prepare for that growth? And how do we manage that growth? Because that is a very complex and ambiguous question. You need to bring the best folks you can to the table to help figure that out. Everyone in this race, all 21 candidates, are qualified, competent folks who are ethically, morally, and legally upstanding. That is not the question. They are right people. They are good people. We would serve in the foxhole with these people. My point is simply this. Within District 1, among the 4 candidates, I am the best qualified. I am the best one prepared today to take on the work that has to be done. Why? Because of my 15 years of working at the grassroots in this city. That's my challenge to the voters. The voters have earned and deserve a choice.
And there's a lot this cycle too, right? How many people are running in District 1?
21 totally.
And District
I
1
believe.
has like
4,
right? Yeah.
Four.
So it's, I mean, this is crowded.
Yes,
And all 6 districts are up.
Is this
Yeah,
normal?
I don't.
I wasn't paying
I
attention to this stuff the last time it came
I mean, I
around.
don't feel like this many people running for the is as that normal. I haven't been in Colorado Springs. I just moved back a few years ago, so I've been gone for a
Yeah.
bit. But I don't
It
feel like
feels like this is a lot of
Yeah.
folks, man. So
People are interested.
right.
Well, I think it attests to the commitment, the dedication, and the care that we have as citizens. That many folks want to offer their talents
Right.
for the betterment of their fellow man and the continued success of our city. That is a wonderful. And all the more reason why the citizens should understand. You do not have to settle. Nowhere do you have to settle. Just look at the folks who are offering their service. You get to select who you think can best represent you. My offering to the citizens is simply this. When you make that decision, let us help you have a sincere and clear-eyed appreciation for what has to be done over the next decade for Colorado Springs to continue on this upward trajectory. We have got to come to grips with the infrastructure.
Yeah.
The current 2C program and the current work being done is absolutely phenomenal. But everyone is sitting here, you know, we're just on the front end of it. There's lots more that's got to be done. We have to continue that momentum. I want to be a part of that. And I think I have some good ideas on how we can continue that. The second thing is this. While we look at the infrastructure, a major component of the infrastructure question is public transportation. There's no question among anyone. We have got to make some improvements, some enhancements. And we've got to look larger and broader. And that is a challenge because the same challenges and opportunities confronting us with regards to public transportation have been the same challenges and opportunities that have stymied, if you may, or stifled a lot of the work we have not yet accomplished in public transportation. Public transportation is a huge cost. How do we pay for it? It requires light rail. Light rail is a huge, complex system. It's going to require some spaces, some territory, some ground, lots of money. But more important than anything else, the transportation question is a long lag time or lead time. You do not produce a efficient, effective, accessible public transportation system overnight.
Right. Yeah.
You're literally talking a decade.
Yeah, you got to
10 years.
It's putting down a lot of stuff first, right? Yeah. I'm happy just to have somebody talking about light
Yeah,
rail
me
in
too.
Colorado
I'm
Springs.
like,
Man,
yo, that's
we were talking about that with
fantastic.
Yolanda, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Is this ever going to happen here?
Well, it's going to happen
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
because there's no choice.
Right,
Yeah,
we got to
exactly.
do it.
If we're going to survive, it will happen
Yeah.
because people will have to get around.
Yeah,
And we have to bring industry and businesses to Colorado Springs. And one of the questions that all business is going to ask is this: how will prospective employees get to and from work
yeah.
in a timely
Amazon
fashion?
had that as a qualification, right?
Right.
For any city on their list, they had to have
They got to have
public
transportation system
Yeah.
that works.
Yeah.
And the third thing that I think we really need to work on, which leads into and supports public transportation and infrastructure, is our young adults, our high school students. You know, we have some of the best secondary public education institutions in Colorado. We have some of the best colleges, university, post-secondary education institutions in the country. Colorado College,
Right.
the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs, Pikes Peak Community College. These are fine institutions, and a couple more I didn't mention.
Yeah.
I'm
you know.
partial to UCCS because I teach there.
Yeah.
Oh, do you? So you know. Okay, how do we enhance what's already going on? Our career and technical education programs within our high schools, that with our local businesses and industries. We have partnerships, and we're doing a lot of work there now. But I submit we could do a lot more, and we must do a lot more. Here is why. One reason. We have to make it attractive and redeeming for our young people to stay in Colorado Springs. We cannot afford for them to go to school or to leave Colorado Springs because the statistics show when a person leaves the city, their hometown, it's less than 50% that they return. And most of that 50% that do return, it's on the out years. They come back to retire. Or they come back after they've made it somewhere else. Well, we want them to make it here.
Right.
Keep them here. And one of the ways you do that is we have to enhance our partnership, internship, apprenticeship programs with our schools. We have to get high school students, 9th graders to 12th graders, and we got to work out with the schools so they get academic credit for this work. But we got to bring them into our industries, into our businesses. Let them work. Let them see what's going on. Let's partner with them so that they know they have a place in this community. And that will keep them here, and we keep our wisdom, we keep our youth. Not only that, we help our small businesses and our industries to grow and thrive. We literally produce our own.
Yeah, we don't want the brain drain that a lot of countries experience,
Exactly.
right? I mean, it feels like Colorado Springs
Exactly.
is changing in that regard to some extent.
Yeah,
Like,
we
I
do.
remember
Yes.
growing up,
Yes.
I mean, Sean and I are basically the same age. Like, everybody like kind of leaves Colorado Springs,
Uh-huh.
in their 20s
When I
or
was
whatnot.
a
but,
kid, it wasn't cool to be from Colorado.
Yeah, no,
Everybody was
totally.
from somewhere else.
See?
They
Yeah,
didn't even want to be
but,
from here.
but I feel like it is changing a little bit.
It is
People are
changing.
more,
It is changing.
likely to come here, but
And we need to improve upon that
Yeah.
base.
Right. I know that in organizing, we've learned that, we have an idea of, man, this is what will fix it, and this is what we're going to focus on. And then, there's someone else that has another, perspective and point of view and approach to fixing what they see.
Uh-huh.
So, from our perspective, and I speak for John too. I think we agree on this, is that our housing market is. I think that yes, we do need to create jobs and create ways for them to learn industry and all of these things, but they can't even live right now. Like and I understand that in District 1 that for people that don't know, District 1 is on the northwest of the city, right?
Northwest and northeast. Yeah.
So,
Yep.
you know, and when you talk about the light rail, you know, that's something that brings up the bottom of the city, it brings up the top of the city, and, you know, it does
Yes.
everything, and it brings
Yes.
them all together, right? So what I'm wondering is, where do you see our housing market affecting this, and if that is, you know, heavier on the scale or not?
Right. 'Cause
Oh, yes.
Scorman mentioned we're like, according to the city itself, like 20,000 units behind on affordable housing, right?
Right.
So like
14,000 to 20,000.
That's
Sure.
That's a lot.
Sure. That is
So
a lot.
How do you deal with that? How do you see it? Because
Well,
I see that I agree with Sean. That's a huge problem.
There's only one. There's two ways that we have to approach it. Affordable housing. The same question of affordable housing, you have to address accessible housing. Affordable housing has a lot to do with what does it take to build a house. That cost. That's what drives up the cost of a house, is what the builder have to do to build the house. And this is very touchy and complex. But we do need to review our codes in some areas. We do not need to do what they call in building and development. We don't need to necessarily overbuild. Don't get me wrong. Every house that is built should be safe, secure, and meet the agreed standards and
Right.
codes.
Like,
No question.
We don't need slums like back in the old
No
days.
question.
We don't need
No,
tenements
no.
and things.
What we can do, however, is review what those codes are. What is required to be a safe, secure, environmentally respectful house? And I can't go into all that here now.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
that's a
But
Huge conversation.
we can bring the experts to the table when we're discussing this.
Right.
There are folks with the building and the housing and building association. There's folks in the real estate business, realtors, the Pikes Peak Association of Realtors. They need to be brought to the table. Some of our bigger developers need to be brought to the table. Now, I said this not to try to forward any group of people. I'm simply saying this. Let's bring our experts to the table and literally figure out the best formula to produce more affordable housing.
Right.
And quit trying to do it on the fly.
Right, and that too, and then another thing, because you know they brought developers in with these ideas
Yeah,
and things, and
right.
then it feels like then we do the exact opposite from their advice, or don't, you know, they say that we should do this thing and we do. And we did the same thing with the LETAC with the Austin group. You know, we spent money on the research, and then we did the
opposite.
something that they recommended. You know,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, my question
I
is,
think
do you
the
feel
city
like
council listening to them to the.
Well, you know, interesting enough, that was a question I just had to answer in a questionnaire. I don't know who. I think the Gazette asked it or the Independent asked the question. Does City Council listen to the people?
Yeah, that was the Indy.
Well, but my question is, do you really feel like the developers don't have a seat at the table? Because you're on the Urban Renewal Board. The largest developer in the city literally has a seat at the table at the Urban Renewal Board. He has a seat at the table at the downtown partnership.
Yeah.
They literally have a seat at the table. So
Well,
I don't see tenants though having seats at the table. So I feel like when we talk about experts, right? Don't we need to broaden the idea of what we consider an expert?
Absolutely.
When I've done community organizing, it's like the city professionals, the bureaucrats, they're all friends with the developers. Mm-hmm. They know them on a first name basis. You probably have experienced this,
yes,
you know?
Yes.
But then when the community members come up, it's like, oh, who are you?
No,
you know what I'm saying? So how do you see like actually including more voices on that
or
table?
completely
You know what I'm saying?
flipping
Or
it and making them
yeah.
understand that they're the outsider. And they, you know, like I think that is a great. The experts might be the people that are.
The answer to your question, John.
Yeah, John. Yeah.
John, the answer to your question is: this is why you have 6 city council representatives, legislators representing those 6 districts. and 3 at large, for a total of 9 city council members. In District 1, if I were elected, I am the voice of the people, and I need to ensure that the people come into the chamber and express themselves. I'm not sure we do that very well, because I agree with you, John, because I'm not sure, I am sure. I think, and this is not a criticism, this is different era. In one era, a council member could speak and talk to people. And oh, by the way, Don Knight does this very, very well in District 1. He knows every single person, man. He is phenomenal in that regard. Having said that, I think we will have to do more going forward, because the questions are more complex. The questions require such a long lead time, and the question will boil down to money.
Like always.
Like always. Therefore, a council person, a council member, will have to spend a lot of time within their respective district or area of responsibility explaining. You know this in the Army. Where we been, where we at, where we going, and why. Finally, this is what you have to do or can do to help us get there. Got to leave them some baggage. We have to leave our citizens some baggage. Here's the picture, but now here's what you're going to have to do to help us get there. If you agree with this picture, you're going to be all in. Now, developers and the folks who build affordable housing. I do not believe that they're overly represented or overly influential. I believe that because we do not spend more time understanding the technical aspects and the second and third order effects, we stop and just say, we start doing something that Carl Jung, a noted psychiatrist and psychologist, he said something that is so profound, and I've thought about it since I was a second lieutenant in Korea. Thinking is difficult. That is why most people judge. Where we've got to go to be successful, we've got to get out of the judging mode. We've got to get to the thinking, more thinking. And again, I'm not saying people don't. I'm just saying sometimes it's easier to see someone and paint them with a brush. Okay, I happen to be black. Everybody in the business or political side see me walk in, I'm a Democrat. I'm unaffiliated. I spent 30 years in the Army. Soldiers didn't care what you look like, what you sound like, or what party you belong to. They wanted competent, effective, caring leadership. And that's how you was evaluated. Period. And that's the way I am today. By choice. I don't belong to any political party.
You got to join that Republican Party if you're going to win in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
Especially District 1.
No, I think it's a breath of fresh air, and it's indicative of what's happened in this last election year. We were watching the map and how, things are just flipped in Colorado Springs, and how things, the city has really had a big shift in that. And I think it's a refreshing to hear that, I'm not going to be beholden to any of this way of thinking or whatnot. So, yeah.
I respect people. I love people. I'm offering my service. This is who I am. If you need a brand to know who I am or to respect me for my character, my intellect, and my work, then I don't have a problem. You might need to reconsider what's important to you, but I'm okay. I'm here to serve.
Right.
And I'm going to bring you my best of who I am. You can accept it or reject it. That's your call.
Right.
This is a democratic republic. And I'm good with that. Because at the end of the day, I have but one question to answer to my Lord and Savior, and that is, I did my best, and I offered myself in service to my fellow man. That's the only thing I have to answer for.
Indeed.
I don't have to answer your choice. Your choice is your choice.
Right. So speaking on that, when you talk about that kind of leads me to think of, interpersonal relationships among the council and, what are you willing to do to help this city and all of the people of the city? I guess really, being in the military, retired from the military, that I take a look at things and I kind of try to figure out what is the default happening here from my perspective, where I could interject myself or my leadership skills into something and kind of, affect an outcome.
That's
So
what I
when
look
you're
at.
looking at the city council and you're seeing what has happened and you've been in the city and you understand and you've seen cycle after cycle come through and go. What is the biggest challenge for this next batch of councilors coming up?
The biggest challenge for our future city council is we have run out of time. We now have to make some tough decisions. And nothing against my predecessors or the folks who served before, because you got to look at it in eras. Everyone has an era. You make the best decisions that you can for your era.
Okay.
You do your level best. And I have no problem with that. Every one of the council members that have proceeded, I have great respect for them. Because they got us to this point, by the way.
Yeah.
A sound foundation with a strong heartbeat with options that carry us into the future. They did that. You got to give them credit. They did a heck of a job. The question is, what now will the new people do to keep this legacy alive? And that's my point. The decisions that's going to be confronting this council in the next 4 years are decisions that will have to be made during this era to get us to the next era. We just talked about it. How do we partner and come together to produce more affordable housing? That's tied to how do we finance and get started on really building a public transportation system that's accessible and effective for all. Right. And third, more importantly, how do we keep our young people energized, dedicated, and at home? Because without them, we have no future.
Right. So
We
those
have
are the,
to.
Those are the three areas.
Those are three
I
areas.
mean, that's
Yeah.
good. I feel
Yeah.
like that's more than some people are coming in with.
Yeah,
City council with a vision of what they want to do, and I actually think it's necessary to come in being like, these are the things that I'm.
These are the things I'm
Right,
focused on.
right.
Because they're the heart of where we gotta go.
Right, but there are things that come up, right? Like, well, so we had Pastor Promisely on a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, you were on the District 11 board. I want to
Yes.
ask about this.
Yeah.
Right,
Like-
sure. I was actually good.
Oh, you were bringing that up, actually?
To talk about.
So,
Please,
you know,
I'm ready. Yeah.
and I want to hear the sense that, I have students, or I have one student in District 11 right now, but
Yep.
another going in shortly.
Yes.
Black and brown students are not, they're not performing at the same level as white students in District 11. And District 11, just in general, is not performing at the level that, like,
Yes.
District 20 or District 12 is.
Yes. Yes.
Do you have insights into that? Like, why not?
I'm on the board. I've been on the board. So
Yeah. I mean, hopefully
it's pretty clear. Now, let me tell you exactly what happened. You may or may not like it, and people listening may not like it. This is why this city council decision in April is so important. You have to stop the cycle of kicking the can down the road.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
District 11, traditionally and historically, being the largest and the oldest district, tried to be everything to everyone. We didn't have a focused mission. No criticism on the people who went before us. Don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing. I'm just telling the truth. They did the best they could in their era. that's got us to this era. And we got to make different decisions. Within District 11, it was okay to have some schools outperform other schools. The second or third effect of that is parents see this, so they move their children to this, the better school. No one understanding that it's a better school for a reason. More engaged parents, students who are more motivated, and teachers and staff that is held to a high standard. To change that dynamic, you have to do some real tangible things. I'll use one example. Right now, we're in the midst of turning around Mitchell High School, which traditionally was one of our better high schools in this entire city.
My mom graduated from Mitchell.
Yes. But quite frankly, in the late 70s, 80s, the attention refocused. It's doing well, so let's focus on Darty, Coronado, Watson. What happens when you do that is you got to ensure that the standard here remains the standard. And you keep people there to uphold the standard. What we found at Mitchell is we need to redo the staff. Much of our staff at Mitchell, no harm intended for those who are listed, but by nature of the fact that we're human beings, we got somewhat complacent. And without realizing it, we quit upholding the standard. And things started to fall. It's hard now difficult to get that staff who allowed it to fall to turn around and hold it back up. Because many of them, it's a way of life. They don't know anything different. What we're doing at Mitchell right now, this coming school year, every staff member will have to reapply for their job. And it's open to district-wide. Why? So that we can get refocused by bringing in top-level staff. Because everything begins somewhere. In education, it begins with the staff. The staff is what forces a student to be motivated, engaged, energetic. The staff is what brings the family into the equation through phone calls, emails, and family and parent-teacher conferences. When Mason look you in the eye and say, little Jimmy is doing well, but you need to help him here. Here's what I want you to do at home. Here's what I'm going to do in the classroom. And we're going to talk about it in 2 months. Now you're going to start getting action. But if you have staff who don't know how to do that, or recognize that that is, in fact, part of your job, then you can't get there. In District 11, we are not performing as well as we have the potential to perform. I'll be the first to admit it. Also, I will tell you, we're going to do something about it. Because we have a superintendent and Dr. Michael J. Thomas. We have enough wonderful, qualified, competent staff, and we have a Board of Education who has said, today is today, that we will make the decision for our era that will take us into the future boldly. But it has to start somewhere. And what you're looking at is what happens when you are happy with good enough. Good enough is never good enough. You got to push yourself. And that is a reflection, quite frankly, of Colorado Springs. We know we're growing. We know we need more affordable housing. We know we need a public transportation system. We know we have to keep more young people in this city and attract more young people. The only question is what you're going to do about it. We know it's a fact. It's no guessing here. There's no assumption. Look at the facts. The only question is, what are we going to do about it? And that's what I want to bring to the council. Let's use our best thinking. Let's embrace the challenge and look for the opportunities. And this is not about Joe or whoever perceived us. Hey guys, get over it. It's not about who was here before. It's not about what political party you belong to. It's not what you like to eat. It's not even about which church you attend. It's about us coming together and working together in a mutual supporting role to answer these challenging questions that, oh, by the way, will complicate, inhibit the quality of life of our children and grandchildren. I mean, our only purpose after the age of 50 is making a better life for our kids and grandkids. We have been all we're going to be. The only thing we're trying to leave behind is a better future for those who will have to follow us. And I think we can do that with some clear, objective thinking, some energy, and some eyeball-to-eyeball conversation, explaining to people why this is important. And it's not about any one of us, it's about all of us.
Indeed. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And it's like it's kind of refreshing to hear, and I hope that it's effective once they get up. Once you get up there and being able to just like, hey, for real, guys, but like either we're gonna do this or you're not. And so
right.
It's kind of it leads me to my question that when you said that we want this city to look this way. Now, what are you gonna do, District 1, District 2, 3,
right.
4? To make it look this way once we agree upon it. And what we've learned is that we have to do a lot of proving and convincing that what we're saying is the truth and is what is really happening to folks in District 1 and District whatever they are. It's not District 4. So my question is, where do you stand on police brutality and things that we think that we talked about our education and move to the things where that affect the
law enforcement.
That and then that District 1 can affect the way that we're being treated, and the way that we're being policed down here. So I'm wondering where do you stand on this and how are you going to make sure that you get it across to the people in that district?
Very easy.
It's important.
Very good question. Very easy. I've been waiting for it. I've been black all day.
Right.
I've been a male all day. However, we need to really deal with what the question is. The question is, how do we ensure that our law enforcement officials treat every citizen in an equitable, respectful, and dignified manner? How do we do that? Well, it's pretty simple. Training, training, training. We have to spend more money, more time, and more resources in ensuring that our law enforcement officials, the patrolmen, they're officials, they're working in official capacity, have the proper training to know how to protect and serve the citizens that they're sworn to protect and serve. Too many times, I believe, like all of us, we're all human, we get into a routine. We get stuck in a rut. And you start making assumptions. Currently, my review, and living here 15 years, let me say this up front. I believe we have some of the best and most professional law enforcement officials in this country. I really do. I believe we sometimes leave them out on an island all alone. We were talking about in budget constraint periods of time of how we reduce the money spent for police vehicles, training, compensation for our officers. Well, it's like anything else in life. If you want the best, you have to pay for the best. On the one hand, we're saying we want our police officers to be the best, and on the other hand, we're trying to give them mediocre resources to be the best with.
You believe that we're doing that in the Springs?
I believe we will have to invest more in resourcing our police officers.
So I guess as you're going onto the city council, and we've been working on a people's budget since last fall, like how to make the budget more just in Colorado Springs. And one of the things that every city councilor has to deal with is the fact that the budget is a finite thing.
Yes.
And you have to decide where resources are going to be allocated.
Yes.
How do you decide which, if you think the police need to be paid more, do you think also everybody else in every other department needs to be paid more to be the best, right? There's a point at which you have to decide.
That's right.
These things are going to be prioritized. This is where the money is going to be going. Because, over a third of the budget goes to the police department. In addition to the public safety sales tax, in addition to the additional federal funding that they get for the police department. I'm talking about the general fund plus the additional things that they get. So, our own perspective has been like the police department basically gets anything they ask for, where other departments are left, like the bus service, for example. If you want light rail, can you pay for light rail and pay for the best police? I'll just turn it off.
No.
It's a spam call.
No, John, you're absolutely correct. You keep going back to the importance of the council. It's a question of prioritization against the objective. And you just break it down. Think about this. Where does first-class, well-resourced law enforcement fall on the paradigm when you have a city that is growing and is projected by 2040, 2050 to be as large as Denver? It's already the second largest city in the state. So you got to prioritize. Okay, so you break it down. 3 things real quick. You cannot be a thriving society and a community without security. Law enforcement offers security. You cannot bring in new businesses or keep citizens if they believe the environment is unsafe and unsecure. So if you don't bring in businesses, you just soon die. And the third point is simply this. How do you get emergency services to people who need it when your society is aging? Not to mention that we're all human beings and we may get sick or have a crisis at any time. So you got to get emergency services to people. Now, stop there. When you think about prioritization, where does law enforcement fit? At the very top. Because all the things that make you survive is tied to protect and serve. Therefore, when you say we already spending 1/3 of our budget for law enforcement, the question is not what you're spending. The question is, what's the objective and is it enough to meet the objective?
Right, and whether or not the cops are doing what they're supposed to.
No, that's another
there's
question.
There's a presumption, right? that
Yeah,
you have to.
you got because I see what you're saying, but at the same time, it's like there's not a chance that I trust that this police force to say, do you have enough money to do what you're doing?
No, that's
Hell
not the
no.
question you ask them.
Oh.
And to answer your question, let me stop. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. No, it's all right. No, it's okay. I want to see what you mean by it, because
Now, standards is another question. And this is where city council and the mayor and everyone comes into play. Because you give us all the resources. What do we do with them? And what is the standard? And I think to get to the law enforcement transparency,
yeah, the
LETAC,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know.
Law
No.
enforcement, transparency, and accountability.
Accountability
I think I've got
Commission.
it now. I think
Right,
I've got
right.
it.
Commission. This is where this outside consulting, observing, recommendation body comes into place. Because everything goes to standards. John, and you were in the Army. Look, the question is simply this. What is the standard for stopping a vehicle that runs a red light? What is the standard for apprehending someone that is a suspect? What is that standard? You identify it and you hold people to it. What we're failing to do is what we do in all organizations. We put it all together and we walk away and think it's going to manage and lead itself. It will not. Someone has to review the standards, check and make sure the individuals are prepared to carry out the standard, and then hold court when the standard is violated. In the Army, you never walk by a mistake.
Right.
Why? Because that becomes the new standard.
Right.
What you guys are getting at, and I respect, my question with what happened last summer, 2 summers ago, when a young fellow got shot in the back running away. Look, those police officers, just like you and I, expect to go home at the end of their duty shift. There's family waiting for them. They're human like we are. They are trying to go home to their family like we try to go home to see our families when we're in uniform. I will not sit here and say that across the board we are upholding and holding people accountable to the standard. I don't know that answer. But I guarantee if I'm elected, that's my first question. What is the standard and how are we holding people to the standard? Because that's where it breaks down. You know, in your own household.
You're right. I agree. You know, that leads me to my next. We kind of asked a couple people, but you know, I believe that that starting from the police officer's perspective is the wrong way to go about it, right?
Yes.
You know, because you know the citizen, all they want to do is walk down the street without getting shot at by the police. You know.
Yeah.
That case that you spoke of went through the court, and it showed that kid lied and sent the police to them for no reason. So
Yes.
those citizens didn't want to get shot at, just like the cop didn't want to get shot at. So, and that happens a lot, you know.
Right.
So I believe that, you know, that there's community conversation that needs to be had and listened to, because, you know, and again, it feels like we've done this before. You know, we want to talk and hear the conversation or whatnot, but the real question is Niski a good enough? Is he a good enough leader to do this? Does he know? Is he good enough? I guess that's the real question. And do you believe he is, or do you believe that you'll be able to figure it out? And then once you do, what will you go forward in with what you see?
Okay. Let me answer that question this way. I believe he is the best qualified and the best person to lead us in this work, based on the people who selected him and gave him his orders. Because I didn't do it personally. But I have to trust other people, just like you have to trust me if I'm your representative.
Right.
I trust Mayor Sutters. I trust the process that selected him. And therefore, I trust him. Because at some point in time, it all boils down to this. And this is why elections are so important. Is the person competent? Based on everything you know, is the person ethical, morally and legally correct? Now, once you answer those 4 things, you have the right person. The only question now is that the best person for the vision I'm trying to achieve? You see, we get screwed up with right answer, right question, wrong question, right decision, wrong decision. I submit to you, if the people are right to begin with, the question is not about right or wrong decision. The question is it the best decision? You got to change the tone of the discussion. Up front, I picked the right person. So it's not about a right decision. Okay, come in here, John. Is this the best decision to get us to where we say we agree we want to go? It's like your house. It's like your budget. We need a new car. We need a new refrigerator. And I got X amount of dollars.
You gotta weigh those.
You gotta figure it out.
Prioritize.
What's more important?
Yeah.
What's more important? And this is where not just law enforcement, but everything in this city in our life boils down to, once we are happy and confident that we have the right person, everything after that is about what's best for where we're trying to go. And we got to get out of this argument about right and wrong. I know the leadership that selected the chief of police. I trust them. We got the right fellow. Now, you want to discuss decision making and what's the best decision? Now that's a different discussion.
Indeed. You know, I agree with you. Now, and I guess that's the best way. You don't have any other. That's the best way to go forward.
Yes.
This position that you're trying to get into, because you can't change who the person is, and you got to.
You got to trust.
For me, I don't trust others. I don't trust the way that he was elected. You know, we can talk about the Devon Bailey case specifically.
Uh-huh.
You know, the corruption in our city showed brightly during that case, that whole thing that went down with the grand jury, and the evidence that was given to him, given to them, the investigation that happened. I'm trying to remember everything. I wasn't expecting to talk about this, but the El Paso County chief, he used to be the police chief, and
okay.
he
All
was
those connections between El Paso
investigating
Sheriff,
the
El
police.
Paso County Sheriff, and the CSPD.
And the wife of the.
So therefore, there was enough ambiguity and enough things that caused you to have mistrust.
Yeah.
Therefore, you have a problem with the decision that was made.
Right.
Because of the basic people involved, you don't think we're the right folks.
Exactly.
And I guess getting more at even where Shan, I don't know who Shan
That's
is.
what I like saying too.
Sean was pushing is, and going back to what you were talking about, I think there's some of my distrust about city officials is that we have different priorities. In fact, I know we have different priorities. Southers doesn't seem to care that much about equity in the cities. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know, but his behavior doesn't seem to imply. He cares more about the police department getting funding or whatever, or having seeming like he has the trust of the police department.
Uh-huh.
But because even when he was talking to Lawrence, who was there, who witnessed his cousin get gunned down in the street, I was shocked by how much he was like, look, it was okay for the police to make that decision according to the law. And Lawrence just kept being like, but was it the right decision? And
and that's where excuse me.
No, it's okay. I guess I'm going back to the right decision because it led to a person getting killed. Like, And so let's go to the best. Was that the best decision for the police to make in regards to equity in Colorado Springs? Because I have to say, when I drive to the Chinook Center every day through downtown through Hillside into K-Land, I see at least one cop on my way. Generally, I see 2 to 3 though. When I go to my mom's house, who's up in District 1, I almost never see a cop. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I don't live in District 4, you know, but I'm over here regularly. The notion of equity within the city council, within the mayor, within Niski, that doesn't even seem to be on their radar. I'm not going to say that about all city council members, because I think there are some city council members that care about that. But decisions based off of the idea of equity within the city seem to be like the back burner or way down low on the ladder. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I you know, because we kind of do got to wrap it up, and I don't want to, you know, this was an old thing, and you weren't on the seat to have to get into the weeds with us here, but I do believe that that part of this question in the bigger sense is how do we make sure that this stops here?
Yeah, exactly.
And then, you know, with the strong mayor system, and, you know, there's really not much that you could do except for say what you're thinking out loud so that everybody can hear you, you know, and that's something that we feel like no one really ever, I don't know, maybe Yolanda sometimes, but, you know, I'm trying to get a feel for, you know, is this, how can we expect for you to represent the city through your district? You know what I mean?
And that's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
And budget control.
But I can do it.
Okay.
Because I am the best qualified.
Indeed.
And I know how to do it, and I've been there. And let me just, before we close, I got to correct a couple of things.
Okay.
I understand what you said, but let me tell you this. Mayor John Suthers is the right man. He makes the best decision. I trust him. Let me talk about equity. He understands equity fully. Did you know that under his watch, just in this past, in 2020, October, November, he directed and led, we selected an equity, diversity, and inclusion personnel manager for this city.
Right.
The first ever. And he ensured that they got the best qualified person. Miss Danielle Somerville. She's the best qualified. She's lived here. She's come up through the ranks here. She is a senior leader. And he gave her that seat. Not gave, she earned it, and he selected her. That is going to get to Sean's question. Things like this is what's going to help us get better transparency, better representation that lead to better decisions. He sees it. Our council members see it. But the reason why I must be elected is because we might be missing a person or two who actually have lived it. And we got to bring that experience to the table.
Indeed.
How does that help District 1? It helps District 1 because in order for District 1 to be successful, this city has to be successful. In order for the city to be successful, District 1 has to be successful. And for us all to be successful, we got to bring to bear this day, this time, this era, the best minds, the best energy, and the best courage we can muster to deal with these very difficult decisions.
Indeed.
I mean, that is the gist of it too.
Yeah,
They are all difficult
They're
decisions.
all
that
difficult.
You just have to face the fact that, like, look, we're just going to have to make a difficult decision right here.
And that difficult decision will be determined by what's best for the end state. Where is it? What's this vision here we all share? The decisions must support that. If it doesn't support it, it's not the best decision. It's not that we won't make it, it's just that it's not time. It's prioritization. You guys are all over it. John, Sean, you guys get it. You get it. I hope our listeners understand what we're talking about. I know they will.
We have pretty smart listeners, actually.
They're good.
They're
good.
I wish we would have time to get to some of the comments, but
I'll come back if you want.
Yeah, we'll address it. But yeah, I just want to tell you, I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, it was good.
You know, I got to. This is the for District 1, it looks like there's some hope there. You know what I mean? I don't know. I appreciate the things that you said, and I really hope that they vote for you.
Well, it's not what I just said. I got a record.
Right.
I got a record in this city.
Right, exactly.
Go check my
it
record.
out.
Yeah.
Don't-
Again, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That
Go
was
I
see
get
the
to talk
record.
to you for a lot longer. I appreciate you know stuff. You know, there's some people that just kind of run and they don't seem to know what's going on. But you definitely
didn't know what was happening. So I'm very. As you were talking, I'm like, man, I would be interested to see a District 1 debate. There's 4 candidates there. I know that District 4 has one scheduled for March, but I think it would be awesome to see District 4 or District 1 put you guys together and kind of make it easy for the voters to see what's there.
Well, I hope so. I am. Look, it's easy. I made a conscious decision to be here.
Yeah.
And by the grace of God, I'm here. Like my big mama used to say. She used to say growing up, boy, the good Lord gave you gifts. If you don't use them, he'll take them from you and give them to someone who will.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't taking mine.
All right, indeed. All right, y'all.
Thank you so much. Peace, everybody.
We appreciate y'all, man. Al Power. We'll see y'all next week, man.
Thank you all.
For sure. Thank you very much.
That was a
Mr.
great
Mason.
John.
We got your boy.